Chopin has always been a favorite composer of many of us piano players. However, even though Chopin wrote tons of piano music, from preludes to etudes, nocturnes, waltzes, polonaises, mazurkas, sonatas, scherzos, impromptus, anything else major I didn't say? Not many of those pieces are simple enough for beginner or intermediate piano players. The good news for you is that you don't have to browse through over 200 piano pieces looking for the ones that are easy enough for you to play, because I've already done that for you. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you what the easiest Chopin piano pieces are, and then along the way, I'll tell you what makes each one difficult, then also play plenty of examples for you so you'll have a good sense of which ones you might want to start. So grab a hot drink, sit back, and enjoy some Chopin. First up here, we have a Prelude in E minor, and the great news about this piece is it's not just like, oh, this is a good one for beginners. It's just a flat out amazing piece. It's gorgeous, it's dark, and it's beautiful, and just this really cool melody, and also interesting kind of walking down left-hand chords. The hardest part about for most people is going to be the left-hand notes that kind of walk down, just because they're not completely intuitive. They don't necessarily walk down in the key of E minor. They're fairly chromatic, but sometimes they're not chromatic. They might do a whole step or a half step. So learning those notes can be a little bit of a challenge. If you want to learn this prelude, I would suggest you start out by doing just left hand alone. Now, a lot of people who just sort of casually look at this piece assume the hard part is going to be the right hand, because the right hand has a few measures that kind of do a little Chopin flourish. It's not that bad. You just need to take a little bit of time, look at the notes, because the reading could be a little difficult, but the notes don't go by that fast. This piece isn't that quick of a piece. So for an example, let's check out measure 12. I think a lot of people get to this measure and just panic because the right hand starts skipping, but if you kind of just take your time, it's actually not too bad. Add a little kind of movement in there, you might get something like this. Up next here, we're going to talk about Chopin's Prelude in A major. Now this one might actually be a little easier than the first one I talked about. I like the first one more, so I kind of wanted to lead off with that one, but this one's also pretty simple. You're going to find a few challenges in some leaps, and also a few challenges in just some bigger chords. So just maybe the reading of those chords, and sometimes just the reaching of them. So for example, this famous big chord at the end is a pretty big stretch. If you can't reach it this way, you might have to bridge the bottom two notes with your thumb like this. And then if you can't reach it that way, you probably just have to do what most people do and just roll it, which is totally fine this style. It's kind of a slow, little tiny waltz, so completely fine, no shame at all if you have to roll that chord. Most people are not going to be able to reach that chord. It's a pretty big one. But other than those big chords and a few jumps, this piece actually isn't too difficult. It's just a very simple, happy, little lighthearted piece by Chopin. There's not a lot of these pieces that don't go somewhere and get dark at some point, or maybe they're just kind of sad the whole time. This is just sort of like, hey, do you want to just have a minute-long little happy waltz? Up next here, we're going to take a little break from the preludes and jump into Chopin's Waltz in A minor. This piece has such a beautiful melody. I'm just going to start out by playing a little bit for you, then we'll kind of chat about what makes it difficult. The challenge of this first section here is definitely the left hand keeping up those. That bouncing waltz pattern is just always difficult, and Chopin and anyone also uses it because they have to do a low note, jump to a high note, low note, jump to a high note. A little practice tip for you: every time you have that pattern, just practice it by playing the low note and practice jumping to the chord like this. Don't put those two things together first. Don't try to go at the same time. Practice playing the note and moving quickly to your destination chord, and then work on getting back to the next bass note quickly. So you're kind of separating the ideas. You're playing a bass note and moving. That's one idea. You're getting to your chord. You're making sure you're there, and then you play it. Now this waltz is definitely jumping complexity over those preludes I played for you, because there's actually a B section. It goes somewhere, like develops a little bit, and this B section is a little more difficult, and on top of that, just different than the A section, so you have two different things to learn. Oh yeah, and actually on top of that, there's a third section. So all in all, 3 sections. None of them are too difficult, but this one again is a jumping complexity because you don't just have to do one thing, but you really have to do 3 different things to put them all together in one piece. But it's totally worth the work to get there because this is an absolutely beautiful piece. I mean, it really plays well above its level as far as like terms of beauty and interest. It's such a good melody. It makes you feel like you're playing this really, really complicated advanced piece, but you get that feeling in something that, again, is more intermediate. It doesn't really jump into that advanced level. Okay, I know you're missing them, so we're going to jump back now and pick up another prelude. The next piece here is Chopin's Prelude in C minor. Now, complexity-wise, this one's actually really interesting. If you have a background in chords, like maybe you're coming over from pop music and you want to check out a Chopin piece, this might be maybe the easiest of all the pieces today. Like for me, I played this when I was younger. I remember like I had a pretty strong background in chords, and I thought this is so easy because everything is just a chord. Everything is basically just like C minor, A flat, D flat, E flat 7. If you have all that background of harmony, this is going to seem really easy because the notes won't kind of make you panic. Now, if you don't have that background, use this piece to start. Figure out how chords work through this piece because it's such a good straightforward like C minor, A flat. Like I said, the harmony is just really out there. So again, the difficulty, if you don't have any background in harmony, you're going to find the reading of the notes a little more complicated. If you have a strong background, this might be, again, the easiest Chopin piece for you to start with. And then musically speaking, this piece kind of has a cool twist. So it starts out like you heard, fortissimo, just really in your face with big chords. And then throughout the whole piece, it just kind of gets less and less and less and just sort of dies away and is really calm at the end. Not a lot of pieces just do this and then just gradually die away the entire time. Up next here we have Mazurka in G minor. This isn't my personal favorite Chopin piece, not bad at all, but it just fits this list so well. It's a little more complicated than the Prelude you talked about, maybe a little more on par with that waltz. The next piece up here is going to be another jump up in difficulty. So if you kind of check out those first 5 pieces and you're like, Ryan, those are all too easy for me, or maybe you've played a couple of those, you're kind of looking for that next step piece, this next one up here is going to be a really good one for you. And this, of course, is Raindrop Prelude, the famous prelude in D flat major that we call Raindrop because it has this consistent, almost like a steady kind of drop of rain throughout the whole piece. Now this piece has a significant B section. It has the A section you just heard at the beginning, then it goes to this very different middle section that's dark and really dramatic and builds. Now the final piece today is really exciting because one of the best things that Chopin did, he wrote a lot of great music, but one of the best things he did is he wrote the nocturnes. And the nocturnes are really important pieces because they give you like advanced level musicianship often, advanced level sound, advanced level beauty in the pieces, the complexity and everything. It's all there just like you would have in an advanced piece. But not all of them, but many of them are more approachable for sort of like upper intermediate students. You might need to have a really good sense of musicianship to pull them off, but they're not terribly difficult to play. I mean, some of them are difficult, like advanced technically as well, but for the most part, they are more advanced musically speaking than they are technically. So this is what I consider to be the easiest of the nocturnes. Nocturne in G minor, opus 37, number 1. The reason it's easier than most of the nocturnes is that many of them go A, B, A. They have a first section, they often have a harder middle section and then they go back to the first section in some ways. Well, this one does that, A, B, A, but the B section is actually easier than the A section. So it's not like it increases in difficulty, it gets a little simpler in the B section. Now, simpler doesn't mean worse. In fact, I think this B section here sounds even better than the beginning. Now, if you're getting ready to start one of these pieces, but you'd like a little more advice on how to play Chopin, I literally recently did a video just about that, how to interpret Chopin's music better. So go check that video out, go play some Chopin. I'll see you in the next video.